right, Kansas City, welcome. This is the BFTAA and More Show. I'm your host, Louis George Walker, and glad to be with you today on a beautiful, after the rain, sunshiny day in Kansas City. And it's warming up. It's feeling like summertime or springtime. It's past something, but the weather is nice, and it's always good to have a nice day to get involved with things. Hey, you're listening to KUAW Radio. KUAW Radio is a project of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association and the Black Family Technology and the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. So they've come together and formed this radio station, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. We call it KUAW. And we're coming to you live in a lot of different formats right now. So you can pick us up on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter and Twitch. You can also pick up the audio version of this show with just the talking and no pictures on the TuneIn app or the Get Me Radio online radio box, My Radio Tuner, Radio Garden. We're there. We're also on Google and we're on Amazon. So if you tell your smart speaker to play KUAW Radio, you'll hear us. We're on Roku. We're on the Apple Fire Stick. So all you have to do is search KUAW, go into your Google or your Bing or whatever you search with, and there'll be a lot of ways you can pick us up. You can also go to KUAW.org, and there are links there that you can click on that you'll be able to hear the show. We broadcast 24 hours a day right here from Kansas City, Missouri, 4510 East Linwood Boulevard. We have music, we have news, we have information and topics that aren't covered on all the radio stations, and then some of the local stuff that's going on. So we're just glad to be able to be with you. We had a storm that blew through Kansas City last night as probably the remnants of what came through Houston. We didn't have it as bad as Houston. There was some trees blown over in power lines. I think 100,000 people was the last I heard had lost electricity, but there was no tornadoes, just a lot of strong wind and some rain. So, you know, it's spring, and this has definitely been a stormy spring. I also want to say that our hearts go out to those of you in the South, in Houston and other parts of Texas and Louisiana, that have been really taking the brunt of the storms over the last week or so. And, you know, the areas that are flooding, the wind, the tornadoes, Oklahoma's been hit. So we'd like to say that we're praying for you guys, and we hope that everybody is doing okay. You can call into this radio station if you want to talk on this show. If you have a question or a comment, give us a call at 816-599-6893. That's 816-599-6893. You can pick us up there, and we'll be glad to chat with you about things that are going on. You don't have to come on the air. We can just take down your information. Or if you want to be on the air with us, you can do that also. So, hey, there's a lot of ways to get in touch with us. Facebook, our email is KUAW985@gmail.com. That's KUAW985@gmail.com. Our phone number here is 816-599-6893. So you can call in, you can reach out and touch KUAW Radio. So we're just glad that we are here with you. Hey, school is getting out. I think a lot of the schools are going to be ending this week or in the next week. There have been a ton of graduations. We went to a graduation party yesterday. One of our nieces is graduating from Raymore High School. So congratulations to all the class of 2024 this year. We're so glad that you're making it and that you're ready to make even bigger gains in the future. Those that are going to college, going to trade schools, or just getting ready to start dipping your hand into the work world. Whatever you're getting ready to do, we hope that you'll be successful at it and that you'll give it your best. So all the graduates, just remember to keep on striving, keep on working. It ain't over. Really, you're just at the beginning of what your life has got for you and stuff. But we're glad that you've made it through. Well, we do a lot of things at KUAW. We had our final youth fair, not fair, but our graduating, our end of class party for the students that were in our robotics program. They met Saturday before last. Was it Saturday before last? Yes, it wasn't last Saturday, Saturday before last. And we had a party. We had robots. We had some drone flying. We had a lot of things going on, and it was great. We're always glad to see the kids after they make it through, and then we're going to get back with them again when school starts next year. We're not going to do a summer program, although you may see the Black Family Technology Awareness Association at different events, especially like the 816 Day, which we've always been a part of, and other events that go on around the city. So we'll be around, and you'll be able to see and interact with us at different events that go on, different organizations that we partner with throughout the year. So we'll be glad to work with you. If you want us to come to your church or your organization, if you have some youth that you work with and you'd like to have a workshop of robotics or of drones or coding or anything like that, get in touch with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. We can come out for a day through your summer program and bring a day of information or a morning of robotics and things that the kids can put their hands on and see how it works, maybe turn a screw or snap a couple of pieces together. So just be sure and get in touch with us. Reach out to us. You can reach out to the Black Family Technology Awareness Association on this radio station, on our Facebook page of KUAW, but you can also go to the Facebook Black Family Technology Awareness Association. So reach out there. You can email us at bftaa@sbcglobal.net. And we'll just be glad to work with you. So get in touch with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, and we can talk to your group, your kids, and to adults about basic computing, learning how to use a computer. We're ready to reach out to all. So get in touch with us. We'll be glad to work with you. Now, one thing we do, even though summer is here, we don't want the kids to stop learning. We would like to make learning fun and exciting and challenging for young people. So one of the places you can go to get some good free summer educational opportunities and ideas and puzzles and all kind of things is from NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. We do a lot of showing what's going on at NASA. We'll go to NASA's website, and they actually have stuff for kids and youth of all ages that they can make experiments. They can do things that you can work with them. I may see if I can pull that up while we're on today, if I can go to their site and let you see what you can learn, what you can do, and it's absolutely free. Well, you still got to buy the stuff if you're going to do an experiment at home, but NASA doesn't charge you anything for what they're putting out. So without any further ado, one of our weekly programs that we always have here is What's Up at NASA, or This Week at NASA is the first thing we're going to have. Then we're going to go to Space to Ground, which is from the space station that's up in orbit around Earth, low Earth orbit, the International Space Station. And then we may show you the last bit of What's Up at NASA, because the month is about over, but there were some parts in there to show what you could see in the night sky if there's no clouds where you are. We've had some cloudy nights here, so star watching wasn't an easy thing to do. But we'll go right now, without any further ado, to What's Up, but I'll get it together sooner or later, to This Week at NASA. Oops, just a second, we'll get there. There we go.
Practicing Artemis moonwalks in the desert, a developmental milestone for our lunar roving robot, and previewing our new polar climate mission. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. In preparation for Artemis missions on the moon, we conducted a week-long field test near Flagstaff, Arizona. With flight controllers and scientists monitoring activities from Johnson Space Center in Houston, a field team including NASA astronauts Kate Rubins and Andre Douglas practiced moonwalk scenarios, performed technology demonstrations, and conducted hardware checkouts and other Artemis science-related operations. This was the highest fidelity Artemis moonwalk mission simulation the team has performed to date. The team building our Viper lunar rover recently passed a system test readiness review, clearing the team to begin environmental testing of the rover. The environmental tests will simulate the extreme conditions the rover will see during launch and landing, as well as replicate the harsh environmental conditions it will experience at the lunar South Pole region. Viper will search the moon for ice and other potential resources ahead of future Artemis astronaut missions to the lunar surface. Our pre-fire mission, short for Polar Radiant Energy in the Far Infrared Experiment, aims to improve life on Earth by studying heat loss from our polar regions and by providing information on our changing climate. Much of our planet's polar heat loss is in far infrared wavelengths and has never been systematically measured. The first of the mission's 2 shoebox-sized satellites is targeted to launch no earlier than May 22nd. This new image from our Hubble Space Telescope shows a triple star system located about 550 light-years away in the constellation Taurus. One of the stars, called BFTAA, is a type of young variable star that hasn't begun nuclear fusion yet, but is beginning to evolve into a hydrogen-fueled star like our Sun. This type of star tends to be younger than 10 million years old. In comparison, our Sun is around 4.6 billion years old. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more about what else we're up to, check out nasa.gov.
All right. So that's a little bit of what's going on with this week at NASA, and we're just glad that they're doing a lot of things. I've been down there around Flagstaff. It looks like the moon in some areas, but it's a beautiful country. The Grand Canyon is real close to Flagstaff, and it's if you haven't been, it's a beautiful sight. So when they were showing that area, I thought, yeah, we've been, well, not to that spot, but we've been in the area, that's for sure. So now we're going to go right to Space to Ground. This is another one from NASA dealing with the International Space Station. So here we go, Space to Ground.
This is the space station toolbox. It's got 5 drawers, and it's one of my favorite things on the space station. But before we talk about the tools, it's important to talk about how you get here. And Expedition 70 crew members Jasmine and Laurel taught me that just part of being on the space station, one must power slide in to get to the toolbox. Mainly because it's fun, it's just because you can. But anyway, I'd quickly go through the toolbox. I have many tools at home. They're spread all over the place in my garage, and they're not quite as compact. The tool density here makes me so happy. The layout makes me so happy. And maybe for home hobbyists, people who like to tinker around in the garage, that maybe this tool density makes you happy as well. But drawer number 1, lots of cool crescent wrenches, standard wrenches here. One of the favorite things I learned about a few years ago was the crow's foot. You can check that out using, it's great for getting behind tight spaces on space station. But lots of cool tools here. Super convenient to get the tools when you need them for a task. In fact, when we're given a procedure on space station, the first thing you get is the list of all the tools you're going to need. And so typically you start a task on space station, you power slide it into the toolbox, and you come grab what you need out of these nice little neatly aligned places. The 1/4 inch, the 3/8 inch drive, our torque wrenches, everything you really need to fix a space station. Drawer number 3, there's screwdrivers. I look at this thing most times. I go into drawer number 3 and wonder, when do I get to use this? Like, look at the size of this thing. This is a 2.5 inch. One day, maybe they'll let me use that. Screwdrivers, big torque wrench in there. Our pliers. Actually, this tool here I've seen used a fair bit. We have lots of round electrical connectors on space station, and this is good for getting a good grip when they're on too tight and you can't quite get them off. The connector pliers tool, so nice. Quantity 2, we have stack. Everything's nice and neatly kept in here. Drawer number 5 Maybe the folks on the ground don't trust us. They took our hammer away. Maybe it's somewhere else on the space station. But one big giant wrench has to fit in this box. Anyway, this is your quick tour of the space station toolbox. But one of my crewmates told me before we launched about the beautiful noise that tools make up here when they just something about them being in zero G as they rattle around together. So a common thing for us to do is, let's say we're going to go do a task, we're going to go do a repair task. The procedure will tell us exactly how many tools we're going to need, what we're going to need. You're going to need this crescent wrench, you're going to need this ratchet, these connectors, and you go typically grab a Ziploc bag we have around. A lot of our Ziploc bags have Velcro on them, so you can stick them places and they'll stay. So you can go to your work site, carry this little Ziploc bag, easily see what tools you have inside, and keep them from floating away on you. But maybe I'll demonstrate what some of those sounds are like. So if I grab a few tools out of here, and you'll note that these have Velcro on them to keep them in place at the work site if we need to as well, which is super nice. But you can already hear some of the noises they make. It's super cool. So grab a couple of those, maybe the 1/4-inch ratchet with the flex head, and a couple sockets. I will note for tool nerds at home, the 10mm is actually installed, but maybe, I'm not sure, I've got the microphone up near my neck. You can hear that noise. It's kind of like a space station wind chime. But that's why we keep things in the Ziploc bag, so they don't go floating off in your work site. That is the space station toolbox.
All right. So it's kind of interesting just to see a little bit of the things that they use up there on our tools like they use down here. But that was what they have for use. Now, before we go into the space and looking at things up there, wanted to talk to you a little bit about the last week was a important date as the anniversary on May the 17th of 1954, and that's like 70 years ago, the Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka was announced, and the ruling was that the school separate but equal was illegal. And there was a lot of things going into that. A lot of us have heard about Brown versus the Board of Education Topeka, and that desegregated the schools. But we don't know of all the players that played in there and all the things that went on. It was a momentous thing. And, as you go through with what they've had with the abortion case, and not to put this and abortion in the same thing, but some people were saying, well, the Supreme Court reversed itself, that, abortions were legal for 50 years, and then you get another set of judges in, and they reversed it, and now it's illegal again. Well, the court, and I myself even had thought, well, if they said it was one way, they shouldn't change it. It always should stay the same. But that's not the case, because the Supreme Court has did that flip-flop before. And one of the things in it that we have benefited from was that in 1896, in the case Plessy versus Ferguson, the United States Supreme Court ruled that separate but equal was okay, was the law, that you could segregate. You could have students, state segregation of schools did not violate the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause to deny any person the equal protection of the laws. Racial segregation was okay as long as it was equal. So in state after state, if they deemed that the schools were the same, or they were getting the same learning and the same books and curriculum, it was okay to have segregation. So they didn't rule that segregation was illegal. They ruled that it was legal as long as the separate things were available to both people. So in this case, it was against blacks or Negroes at that time and whites. As long as a white school and a black school both had the same equipment, teachers were pretty much on par with each other, it was okay, according to this ruling in 1896. So people have been wanting to stop that segregation for a long time, and that put it into law that it was okay. But then, come 1954, the Supreme Court ruled that separate but equal was not constitutional. That being separate, even if it was equal, they didn't even go into the fact of it being unequal, which in many places it was, but even equal, it was against the law. Now, there was a whole backload of stuff going on in the United States and around the world that had some influence on this. One is that we were in 1954 and in the 50s, really ever since the end of World War II in 1945, we had been in what they would call a Cold War. In 1947, I believe it was, the Berlin Wall went up in Germany, and Germany was cut in half, or cut apart. It wasn't in equal half, but there was two Germanys. There was the East Germany and West Germany. There was an Iron Curtain that Winston Churchill talked about that had went up across Europe. Poland, Hungary, a lot of those countries were on one side of the Iron Curtain, and they were controlled by the communists. And France and England, Italy, all of them were on the other side, and they were independent democratic countries. So that was a thing that was going on. The communists were trying to spread, and they would always come when the United States tried to say something about it. They say, well, hey, you have your people separated in your country. You know, you're not all equal. You're not doing everything all democratically. And there was a lot of countries that were looking at the United States and saying, well, hey, you know, look at this Africa and other places that how do y'all do with black people? As you talk about there should be freedom around the world, and you don't have freedom in your own country. So that had something to do with what was going on with the laws too, because the Justice Department did enter a brief in support of the separate but equal not being the national standard, you know, or the law of the land. So that was part of what was going on. That's something you don't hear a lot about. You just hear about, well, in Topeka they wanted to go. And Topeka was not the first city, the Board of Education, that was sued or that was tried to get the end of segregation. There were, I think, about 5 different cases that had been litigated in lower courts to end segregation, and they bound them all together. And somehow, I don't know how they go about it, Topeka's name was what was on it. Brown versus the Topeka's Board of Education became the main one. But there was cases that were in that. There were like 4 or 5 different cases that were all rolled into that one trial. So it was sort of like a class action lawsuit that was filed for everybody. But it was held in Topeka, or it was named after the Topeka one. So the NAACP and a lot of other organizations had been for a long time trying to end segregation. Ever World War II, when Harry Truman was the president, and he said in the 40s, I think 47 or 48, around this same time of the Iron Curtain going up, that he was going to desegregate the military, because the military was segregated. So the United States didn't have a good look around the world for that. But the one thing I wanted to talk about mainly was, you talk about young people and what they do, or sometimes that they don't know, or this and that. One of the first cases that was part of the Brown versus Topeka Board of Education came out of Virginia, and it was started by school students. School students walked out of school and had a strike. And that's what started in that area. I was trying to look it up to see exactly where that was. Oh, it was the Mouton High School. 450 students had a walkout. Barbara Rose Johns organized and led a 450 student walkout of Mouton, an all-black high school in Virginia. And that was, I think that was in Virginia. Wait a minute. Let me pull that up. Let's see, Mouton High School. Yeah, it was in Prince Edward County, Virginia. So that was a thing that was going on. These were young people. She was 16 years old. They were high school students. They were protesting the conditions in their school, what they didn't have. So in 1951, a group of students led by 16-year-old Barbara Rose Johns staged a walkout in protest of the conditions. The NAACP took up their case after students agreed to seek and integrate a school rather than improve conditions at their black school. So they went out just wanting them to fix up the school. Say, they didn't have a cafeteria. They didn't have a lot of the things that the white school in town had. So, that was one of the things. Howard University had trained attorneys, and they filed suit in May 23rd, on May 23rd, 1951. And that was Davis versus the County School Board of Prince Edward County. So that was one of the early cases that was found. It was one of 5 cases that was combined into the Brown versus the Board of Education. So, we sometimes want to denigrate our young people or tell them to wait, but a lot of times it's the young people that will, when you talked about the Freedom Riders on the buses and all of that, those were college students. So it wasn't all the adults that made these changes. They worked with them. And they helped to guide and get it going. But a lot of it was started by a lot of young people who said they didn't want to put up with it anymore. So if you remember a name, if you do, is, what was, trying to see what her name was once again. Barbara Rose Johns, 16 years old, led a walkout of her school, 450 students at their high school. And that started a suit in 1951 for ending segregation, to get rid of separate but equal. That case was combined with 4 other cases that made the Brown versus Board of Education case that came up, in which the court ruled against the principle of separate but equal. And that was, it mandated the integration of public school systems. So that is one thing to look at. In 1953-54, as part of the argument that was active in seeking to improve separate but equal conditions, the county built a new high school for African Americans. They didn't want to change it. And this building became an elementary school. So even though the courts ruled against them having separate but equal, they built a new school to give them everything that would be the same as of the high school to keep from integrating. And that's a thing that's been plaguing the United States, and it still plagues the United States. There are still racial tensions, animosities that hold us back from really being the great, great country that we need to be. So we don't need to make America great again. We need to make America great as it should be. That's one thing that I think we should be looking at doing. But that's last week was the 70th anniversary of the Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education. A lot of things were happening in the late 40s and the early 50s, and education, as it is today, was very much an important part of it. Education is still a key part of what we need to be about. We've got technology and stuff that is moving forward. We want to, if you want to build up economic power, you have to be able to run, be able to create, be able to operate companies, be CEOs, to be entrepreneurs, and working with some of the cutting edge technology that is out there. So we need to have more scientists, more engineers, more technologists in and of our community. But we also need to have that to make America as strong as it can be. Because how can America be as strong as it needs to be and should be if it's not using all the brain power that it has at its disposal? We have to change. We have to change so that we can be the world leader that I believe we should be. All right. So that's my soapbox for today. I was listening to part of that on NPR, and I thought, well, let me do a little look at it and check and see what's going on. And to that end, I also had got a postcard. There's going to be a talk given tomorrow at the Plaza Library, Kansas City Library on the Plaza, from 6 to 7. They're going to have a meet and greet at 5:30. But it's a new book out that's The Women of Brown versus Board of Education. That's going to be happening May the 21st at the Plaza Library from 6 to 7 p.m. So that's one thing you want to check out if you want to learn more about this. You know, a lot of times we hear something and we think we know what went on. The Supreme Court did this and that. But there was a lot of other moving parts in there. There was a lot of people that put in a lot of time, effort. It wasn't all glamorous. It wasn't all in the news and stuff, but that really made it happen. Think of the mothers, and as it says, the women of the Brown versus Board of Education, who sent their kids to school to help desegregate it. That would be a hard task. You know it's going to be dangerous. You know it's going to be a lot of people there calling names and this, that, and the other. And they sent their children to school to integrate it. That takes a lot of heart for fathers and mothers for that. I was listening on the news, I think it was this morning or last night, where one of the young people said that she was raped in school. That there was only 5 blacks. They had integrated the school. And she didn't tell her father. She's 80 years old, and she said she never told her father about it because he'd probably try and kill somebody, and it would have been a big problem. But, you know, it wasn't that they just went to school and it was all okay and stuff. She said, no, one day she was walking by herself in the building, and some boys snatched her into a room and raped her. So those are the things that went by so that you can go to a school. So we shouldn't look at it as, oh, well, yeah, we don't want to send the kids to school or this, that, and the other and stuff. People suffered. People went through a lot of things to help make the world a better place, to make this country a better place. And a lot of them paid some tremendous prices for it. So we should always give respect to all those civil rights protesters and people that stood up, that marched and walked out and all of that. You know, you can say what you want about what they used to do or they didn't get this accomplished or this, that, and other stuff, but a lot of people did all they could, and they did a lot. So, you know, that's a little bit of Black history for us that talks about our schools, talks about our education, and how important we should still take education right now today to make sure that our kids are learning, our kids are wanting to go to school, that it is encouraged, that the parents are behind them, not just sending them up there, but going up to the schools and seeing what's going on and making the school a better place for our young people. I was talking with a teacher the other day and saying that, you know, they have black and white students, and some of his black students don't seem to be that interested in learning STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math and stuff. And the parents don't come up interested in it and stuff. We've got to be interested in our kids' education, even though we might not know it. You may not know rocket science and stuff, but if your kids see you coming up there talking with the teacher, wanting them to be in these STEM programs, they will know that it is important to you. And most children want to please their parents. So if you let them know that this is an important thing, that this is something they should be doing, then they're going to get involved in it. So we have to model and show our young people that technology, that science, math, all of that is very important. And it's necessary, and that we're proud of you if you do good in it. You know, we're proud of them when they play basketball, football, run track, on the soccer team, and all of that. Well, we need to show up at robotics competitions. We need to support our children that are doing rocket clubs and doing a lot of different things after school that maybe is not sports, but boy, it's sure worth as much as sports. So let's make sure that we support our young people in their endeavors. Now I want to do a little bit of back to NASA as we go into space and science. What's up? They do a thing every month. So now we're getting near the end of the month. So I wanted to play this one for you so that you would see what's up in the night sky for the rest of May. There'll be a new video that'll come out for June. So let's look at what's up NASA for May.
What's up for May? The moon hangs out with Saturn twice this month. The Scorpion's heart briefly goes missing, and meteors in the morning courtesy of Comet Halley. On May 3rd, in the hour or so before dawn, you'll find the crescent moon rising with Saturn in morning twilight. The pair are trailed by the red planet Mars, which rises about 45 minutes after Saturn. They form a nice lineup in the east for early risers to enjoy. Then on the following morning, the moon shows a slimmer crescent and has moved between Saturn and Mars. The two planets are continuing to widen their separation following a close conjunction in early April where they appeared super close in the sky. And if you have a clear view to the horizon, you might just catch a glimpse of Mercury rising in the hour before the sun. It's shining pretty brightly, but it's also low in the sky and competing with dawn twilight, so it makes for a good challenge. Those in the southern hemisphere will have an easier time spotting Mercury as it rises a good bit higher in the sky for you. On May 23rd, the full moon will appear quite close to the bright red star Antares in Scorpius as the pair rise. But for those on the east coast of the U.S., south of Delaware and down through the whole state of Florida, you'll actually observe the moon pass in front of Antares, an event called an occultation. Over a couple of hours as the pair rise into the night sky, the moon will move slightly in its orbit, first obscuring and then revealing Antares. And finally, on May 31st, the planet Saturn rises in the wee hours of the morning with the crescent moon in tow. If you're up early on the final day of May, you'll find the pair toward the southeast. They'll be close enough to appear in the same field of view if observing through binoculars. May brings one of two annual meteor showers that are attributed to Halley's Comet. The Eta Aquarid meteors are seen each year in May, whereas the Orionid meteors streak through our skies in October. This situation occurs because Earth crosses through Comet Halley's orbit twice every year in May and October. Along Halley's path is a meteor stream, lots of little grains of rock and dust cast off by the comet, and these strike our atmosphere and burn up as meteors. The shower peaks overnight on May 5th and into the morning of the 6th. You can see meteors from this shower the whole week centered around the peak night though. The place on the sky where the meteors appear to originate, the radiant, is in the constellation Aquarius, so you'll have a chance to see meteors as long as the radiant is above the horizon. With more meteors, the higher that point rises in the sky. This time of year, Aquarius rises after midnight, so the time to watch this shower is in the few hours before dawn. This is a great shower for observers in the southern hemisphere. The radiant rises a good bit higher in the sky before morning twilight because in May, which is autumn there, nights are longer. Those in optimal dark sky conditions can see 40 meteors per hour. For northern hemisphere observers, it's less than half that amount, more like 10 to 20 meteors per hour. It's still an above average shower though, especially with the peak this year being near a new moon, making for a darker sky. And with the warmer temperatures that come with springtime north of the equator, it can be a worthy shower to go out and enjoy. As always, to see the most meteors, find yourself a safe, dark spot away from bright lights and give your eyes a few minutes to adapt to the dark. Lie down with your feet pointed more or less toward the east and look straight overhead. Bring a warm drink and a friend or two, and turn an early morning into a meteor morning as you search the skies for the Eta Aquarid meteors. Here are the phases of the moon for May. Stay up to date on NASA's missions exploring the solar system and beyond at science.nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
All right. So we've seen quite a bit of things that are happening and going on. It has been a great day. So we're going to close out the day. You can join us here every Monday from 5 to 5:45 for the BFTAA and More show. I'm your host, Louis George Walker. Glad to be with you and hope that you'll come back and join. Maybe you'll learn something. If there's something I said that you'd be interested in finding out some more about, or that you maybe contradict, or you want to say something about it, give me a call, 816-599-6893. You can leave a message and we'll definitely get back with you. You can also post it up on Facebook or YouTube. Just look up KUAW or the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. We'll be glad to get with you. So we're going to close out with a bit of urban network news right now. I'll be back again next Monday. And stay tuned at 6 p.m. B. Michael is going to be on with Shifting Paradigms. So Shifting Paradigms will be on at 6 p.m. We want you to stand by for that. It's going to be a great show. He always does a great show. So here is Urban Network News, and then I'll see you next week.
This is UNN Urban Network News with Alexander Caden and Brooklyn Alexander. Brooklyn?
Well, here's some good news out of Arkansas. The state is replacing 2 of its statues in Statuary Hall at the nation's capital. Instead of 2 little-known figures that visitors know absolutely nothing about, when you go there now, you will see figures of the man in black. Of course, everybody knows that's Johnny Cash, along with civil rights leader Daisy Bates. She headed up Arkansas's NAACP and also mentored the black students known as the Little Rock Five, who integrated Central High School back in 1957. Bates has a street named after her in downtown Little Rock, and I bet you didn't know that on President's Day, the state of Arkansas also recognizes Daisy Bates Day.
In Diddy or Diddy Not news, we're sure you've seen the video or heard all about Diddy physically abusing Cassie back in 2016. But it raises the question of, if the video was recorded in 2016, why is it just coming out in 2024? And who gave it to CNN? Which we'll probably never find out, because I just don't see CNN giving up their source. According to the Baltimore Sun, Baltimore's former black top prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, has applied for a presidential pardon ahead of sentencing on her recent perjury and mortgage fraud convictions. The city of Buffalo, New York marked the 2nd anniversary of a racist mass shooting at Top Supermarket that killed 10 black people, with the dedication of a memorial space honoring the victims.
In entertainment news, a man was arrested after trying to break into Drake's $100 million mansion in Toronto. The attempted break-in happened one day after his security guard was shot in a drive-by shooting. The man was apprehended under the Mental Health Act.
The Supreme Court has ruled against payday lenders in favor of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, saying that lenders can't withdraw funds directly from borrowers' bank accounts. Last week, a 12-year-old black patient from the suburbs of Washington, D.C., became the first person in the world to receive a groundbreaking gene therapy treatment that may cure sickle cell disease. You've been listening to UNN Urban Network News, and you can listen to UNN on this station, and you can also watch UNN on our website at myunn.net.